We're going to review options 1 and 2 to start, which are very common, very easy solutions to set up and build and for users to manage. You know, you guys have seen these day in, day out. You work on them all the time. So I'm not presenting anything new. What I want to do is point out how this video solution would work for Vantage and for Equinox. And then we'll tie in, of course, Atlona. So these options consist of, 4 parts. And how you set up these 4 parts has a direct impact on how Equinox video is going to look and act. So when I say set them up, I'm referring to how you build them and assign them in Design Center. So the end result will be an experience that users will appreciate with an automatic UI and 3 levels of navigation that you guys are used to by now, from dashboard to full screen and to edit mode, and we'll cover those. And of course, the main benefit is the reduced programming time, reducing your amount of time on the project and eliminating hundreds and hundreds of tasks. So those 4 parts, as you look at this slide, and again, those of you who are driving will describe the 4 parts. 1 is your equipment stack, right? You're talking about here sources, again, which may be directly into a display or a sound bar, perhaps a receiver or an HDMI extender. 2, you're going to need a display, obviously, TVs or projectors. 3, you're going to then set up your interfaces with apps or maybe perhaps an Equinox 4.1. And these are, consistent and automatically built by using the premier partners that we have inside of Design Center. And you're going to use a combination of video and scene widgets to accomplish your goal of creating this video space for them. And then profiles and edit mode to rearrange zones and sources. And lastly, part number 4 would be the back-end control. So that's Design Center and the drivers necessary. And then you'll notice in this slide, and those of you who are driving, I'll describe it as well, but we're showing here the DIN light controller, which is new, right? The IC DIN dash light is releasing next week and was first shown at CEDIA this year for those of you who are with us in Denver, and is really perfect for this video scenario. It's got a reduced price point and a set of station features which are perfect for a media space, starting point. And it has all the same software power available to it as you would find in Design Center, and of course it's Equinox ready. So with that controller then, and with those interfaces, from here you're in a great position to add in the new low-cost scene points which are available now, and IRX2s. You can bolt on then the integration of shades if necessary, climate, audio if you want, and then more. And as you expand, if you start to run out of room, you can add another IC light controller to the project for double the integration and double the device power. And the great thing is, even from there, that you can expand to the rest of the house as needed. If you start running out of space after that, you can start adding standard IC controllers in, and then you've gone from a single room to whole home, in the blink of an eye. So take a look at this slide. Remember the 4 parts: equipment, displays, interfaces, and controllers. As an example of the bill of materials, here's a quick look at what perhaps a small starter package could look like, for Vantage products, that is. And the price shown here, roughly around $4,000, is shown at an average MSRP, which of course is based on the country that you're buying in. Also note that in this case, we're not including the costs of other critical elements like the TV displays or our partner Atlona's products. But you get the idea, and you can see that very quickly you can be competitive. And again, the advantage is starting small and expanding into other rooms and expanding into other areas or other systems in the project. Speaking of critical elements, with us today is Ken from Atlona. Ken, can you talk to us and help us understand perhaps what products has that would work in this media space solution?
So this is a great partnership with Atlona and Vantage, and we're really excited about it. One of the things that makes this great is when you use an Atlona solution with the Vantage solution, they're just immediately compatible. You guys already have the drivers built into your system to work directly with the Atlona products, so it's a really great fit. So on the screen here, I've got two of what I would call our simple media solutions here. And if you look at that first diagram on your left, what I'm using here is a pair of HD-Base-T extenders to connect a source Blu-ray player to a display. And the reason we use the HD-Base-T is because we can transmit over category cable, and we can transmit up to 5 different signal types over that category cable, that being your audio, your video, your power, your Ethernet, and your control. And if you look in the diagram here, in the Blu-ray player, you've got an HDMI cable that connects you right out to that first transmitter, and right alongside of that, you've got an IR bud there as well, so we can transmit control. And then in between the transmitter and the receiver boxes, you've got a category cable, which can transmit up to 328 feet in length over that category cable to the receiver on the other end, where you break the signal back out into HDMI, connect to the TV, and also the IR bud there. So it's a real simple, easy solution, works great with the Vantage products, and then in the table just below it, I've included the MSRP pricing on that. The transmitter receivers are $249 each. It's a $499 pair. We're using the pair with the IR control built into it. You can get these without control. You can get them with RS-232 control. So the extender boxes are scalable to fit the needs of your application and also to fit the budget. And on the second application on the right, we're using one of our HDMI switchers. This is a 4-input, 2-out switcher. And here's what makes this guy really powerful. It's the dual mirrored outputs on this. And think about the application. You've got a client who has a nice living room, and they tend to do most of their entertaining and movie watching in this room. During the daytime, they might have a nice flat panel display, maybe fireplace, and it's okay if there's ambient light in the room because you can see that display real well. But then in the evening, they might like to drop into movie mode with the motorized screen that maybe drops down in front of the flat panel. And now you've got to have a second video source output to feed that. So with the HD4V42, our dual output HDMI switch, we can feed both of these displays. And if you look at the diagram, I've got a single HDMI going up to the display. That's our flat panel. And then let's assume for the purpose of this application that projector's in the back of the room, maybe located above a cabinet or something kind of out of sight, but it's longer run. So I'll use a pair of the extenders that we just saw in the last diagram to route my video and my control signal back to that projector. And I've got a simple little pair here, extenders with the HDMI switch. Makes a nice little complete control system for the room. Gives you ability to have 2 video displays at one time in the room. And then in the table just below, we've got pricing on that there. Notice I've added in the 4x2 HDMI switch. There's the extender receiver pair we just saw. And so for less than $1,000, you've got a complete system for a room that can change shapes. It can be a daytime and nighttime mode, done with the Atlona products, paired with the Vantage control. And then Reed, if you flip me up here, we'll go on to the next slide.
Okay, Ken, there was a question that came in. Is there any difference in the Cat5 or Cat6 in terms of distances?
That's a great question. So the HD-Base-T spec is based around Cat6A shielded. So when I say you can run a distance of 328 feet, that's assuming you pulled Cat6A shielded. Will it work with Cat5e? That's more likely the question. A lot of times it's existing, it's already in the building. You want to know if you can run over that. The answer is yes, absolutely. It's a digital signal. So once we go ahead and set up the transmitter receivers on a category cable, we get a signal, we're done, we're good. What's going to change in the grade of category cable is the maximum distance that we can run. And as you drop Cat6A shielded all the way down to a Cat5e cable, you're going to lose about 20% of your distance just because of you don't have the bandwidth on that cable anymore. But it'll still work. You'll still be able to pass audio, video, control, Ethernet, and power as needed over that line. But note that you will lose about 20% of distance on that. All right. Any other questions on that, Brian?
Doesn't look like it, Ken. I think we're okay to move on.
Wonderful. All right, so on to the next slide here. We're still talking about the media room space, but we've stepped up our game a little bit here. Now let's assume your clients come to you and said, hey, I'm looking to do something a little more exciting in my media room. not just one or two displays, but I've got a lot of displays. And take a look at that picture I've got on the right there. Here's a video wall with a large projected image in the center and 4 small displays around it. And Brian even showed a really great example of this earlier in one of his slides, where he had a big display, a large display with 2 smaller displays above it, and off to the left it looked like a little kitchenette area with another display over there. 4 displays in one room. So how do we go ahead and build something like that? And the way you do it is with a matrix switch. And in the diagram on the screen here, I'm using our 4x4 matrix switch. So in this application, I can have up to 4 displays. So at the bottom there, I've got 4 different sources running into my Pro HD 4M, which is our 44M, which is our 4x4 matrix switcher. Notice just to the left, I've got my control interface over there for Vantage. And then above that, I've got a category cable running directly out of that matrix switch to each of my displays. And at each display, I have a Pro 3 receiver located at each display to receive that category input, break it out to HDMI, and run it into my display. So I can configure this in lots of different ways. And notice in the upper right corner, I'm using a projector with a 5.1 surround system. So that's for my theater. Then I might use 2 of these displays to go next to that big theater display. Then I might take a 4th display located in the back of the room, maybe where we've got a bar, another entertaining area with another display over that. So the matrix is a great way to really enhance that media room, do something really cool like a media wall, and maybe even have another zone or 2 within that same environment, all controlled from Vantage, and the controls for this system are built right in. It's very easy to integrate. I've included some pricing in the table down there below. Our Pro 3 4x4 matrix switchers, $24.99 retail. You need 4 of the receivers to go along with it. So you have a grand total there of $3,600. Keep in mind, too, if you're using a projector, and I say projector because you see more of those on the market than flat displays right now, that already has an HD base T input built into it, you can come out of our equipment straight into that display without using one of the receivers, and that'll work as well.
Good coverage, Ken. Good description of the solution, and thanks for talking about the 4x4 and the 6x6s and the 16x16 as an example, because it's a nice segue into whole home distribution, where not only can you do media space, but as we move on and talk about whole home distribution, of course there are going to be additional zones that are required for the displays, different rooms. So once you move from a single room to a whole home system, you know, they're similar in principle, but in practice there are a few key differences. Primarily now, you know, as we talk about the whole system, not just the distribution aspects of it, when you talk about the whole video solution, guys, you're primarily now moving away from an IC DIN light to a full IC2 controller, which was released at CEDIA this year and is much more capable than its predecessor. It's faster, has more memory. It's the same number of stations on it, but it does everything that it used to do in, you know, record time.
Same price.
Same price. Thanks, Tim. Also, you'll be adding in, instead of perhaps tablets throughout the home, or in addition to tablets throughout the home, you'll be looking at spaces for adding in-wall Equinox 7.3s. At key areas like master suites, common areas like kitchens or exits and entrances for that always on, you know, always there. You walk in, you start the movie going, sit down, then you pull out your tablet. And of course there are options for 4.1s in some of the other areas where we're talking about whole home video distribution. Perhaps a 7.3 is maybe a little overkill in some of these extra rooms, but the 4.1 is the perfect blend between the 7.3's capability while still giving you the same functionality as a standard keypad with lighting, scenes, and of course you have all the additional widgets and profiles available to you and all that power. So that's one thing that doesn't change, is the fact that the Equinox interface itself is still available and consistent throughout. You'll still use the video widget and the scene widgets together with profiles to manage that space, as well as the other integrated systems in that room, such as climate and lighting and shades like we talked about. And that's the real power of Equinox, where you're bringing together all of these systems. So as we look at the whole home system, I'll point out a couple of other key elements. And this came up as a question earlier through the online question submission. One tip here, or item that you should note down, is that for volume control, you'll have a couple of different options. One is you can pass audio through the distribution unit itself, such as the Atlona piece, and have the video and audio then, of course, come through the TV. Or you can separate out the audio and pass that through a multi-room audio system like the 850 from Vantage or another partner audio system. And if you set that up in Design Center, meaning you assign the source driver to both the audio stack or the audio distribution system, and you assign that source driver to the video distribution system, say from example from Atlona, then when you're in the full screen video inside of the Equinox video widget and you're swiping sources left to right, or you're changing sources, the audio will automatically switch to, so that as you change what your source is on the display, it will force the multi-room audio system to also change its input to match and sync with the video system setup with that swipe. That's done automatically for you without any additional programming necessary, just by virtue of setting that up in Design Center. So when I say it's critical that the Design Center setup is done correctly, as your desires are based on what you want to have happen, that's going to determine and dictate what happens with the video system. So some important pieces there. Let's talk about an opportunity or an option that was, Reed, if we move to the next slide. Many of you guys were with us at CEDIA a year ago, not this past year, but a year ago, as an example where Atlona and Vantage collaborated to deliver a video solution at the Denver Penthouse Suite in downtown Denver there. I know some of you walked through there. It was a great project, this condo. There were 6 video zones. In fact, I think, Ken, this is one of the first times the AT Pro 66 was used. I know we got it ahead of the release. There was also one media room, the main viewing area, where we used a Sony STR receiver. The Samsung 8000 series was used throughout the project, and we had several key sources. We had tablets around the project. And then, of course, there was the lighting solution, audio solution from Nouveau, and then shading solutions from ESI. What was really great about this project is that it demonstrated with Equinox and Premier partners such as Atlona that a consistent video UI or interface could be created and given to a user with little to no experience with automation, and they would understand how to use it and how to manage their sources. We kept it real simple, and talking to those folks this last year, you know, they're surprised maybe a little bit, but we weren't, and happy that it works the same way, the same, you know, every time in every single room and zone of that project. So it can be done. This project cut sheet or application guide is available online if you guys haven't had a chance to see it. The link is in the bottom right. It's a nice PDF to present to your customers. Now, Ken, you know, talking about this particular project specifically, and then other solutions from Atlona, what would you recommend when it comes to the whole home multi-room systems, and can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we go back to talking about the matrix units like the Pro 3 HD66M that was used in this application right here. And in fact, we have a slide coming up that actually shows a diagram with that device, that particular matrix switcher, which would be exactly what was done in that suite there. There it is right there. So there's a Pro 66. So you've got 6 different sources coming in, and unlike the last matrix where we looked at, we did everything in one room. Here now, we're assuming we got 6 different zones, maybe some in the same room, maybe completely different rooms, but we can take all 6 sources, route them to any one of those 6 displays, regardless of where they are. Over the category cable, and with the Pro 3 series matrix switchers, which are the 4x4 and 6x6, We have a maximum distance of 230 feet or 70 meters over our category cable that we can use. Now with the 6x6, what you see on the screen right now, I know it's a little, maybe a little tough to see over the webinar graphics, but if you look at the last two Ethernet ports, those are ports 5 and 6, just below those are HDMI ports as well. So this particular matrix has mirrored HDMI ports on it as well, which allows you to easily pull audio out and run that into a separate system. So if you want a house audio system like the Nouveau system that was described in that last application, you can pull those mirrored ports as well. The matrix solution is a great way to get video distributed all around the house and be able to control each of those sources. This, of course, is the 6x6. When we go up to the next level, we have the Pro 2 series, which is our 8x8 matrix, and then our 16x16. So when we get into some much larger jobs, we cover that with the 16x16 as well. A lot of folks will ask us, well, we like the matrix, it's great, but sometimes we run into issues with all these sources with things like HDCP or EDID. Can you manage that? And the answer is yes. The management for those features are built directly into the Atlona matrix devices. In fact, if you're talking about EDID, we manage EDID in 3 different ways. You can use an auto mode to manage EDID. You can use our library of EDID files that are already built in, and you can select one of those. Or you can learn in an EDID that you want. So you have lots of easy ways to manage it. This is easily controllable from the front panel or through the Vantage control system. It's quick to set up. It's reliable. It's easy to use. I've included some pricing in the table there below for the 6x6 model that we've been talking about. The MSRP on that is $4,499, so $4,500. You need 6 of the receivers to go with that. So you have a package total of just under $6,200. Get you a full whole distributed system in the 6x6. And if you have time, you make it out to our website, to atlona.com, and click on the training tab there. You'll see a button for application designs. And underneath the application designs, we list about 40 different ways that our products are used with pre-configured drawings, just like you see right here. They all match up with the Vantage products. So you can jump out there if you're thinking about something. I want to do a 16x16, but you're only showing me a 6x6 on the screen. How do I know what that looks like? Jump right out to our website. You can see all the drawings right there. The bill of materials is listed there with it. So it's easy to pull down and use. The pricing is listed there as well. So with that, I'll pass it back on over to you, Brian. And any questions, let me know.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions for you, Ken, that came in that maybe we can take a minute to answer.
Sure.
The first is, what do the AT-HD-MX units do?
Just referring back, Ken, to that first picture.
Yeah.
The MX units. Are we talking about the M2C? Was that the question? M2C units?
I'm trying to find the referral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question is written in the. Oh, go ahead.
The first diagram that we put up, there was another little box up there between the receiver and the display. And I think the question might be asking, what are those in there for? That's called an M2C, which is an audio de-embedding product. So sometimes, particularly in a matrix environment like you see right here, and this is a good example because in this picture you see on the screen, I've got 5 displays, and then the 6th one is a projector. So we're assuming in this house there's a theater, and in that theater there's probably a surround sound system in there. So what happens in a matrix environment, let's say you've got a Blu-ray player feeding from the rack, someone in the theater is watching a movie. Let's say somebody upstairs in the bedroom says, hey, I want to tune into that Blu-ray player and see the same movie you're watching. Once they do that, the Blu-ray now is going to default to the highest common audio format, which in this case, in the bedroom, is 2-channel audio. So that's going to now kick the theater down from surround sound to 2-channel audio, which is not a good thing. So this device called the M2C, we put that into 2-channel zone, and it reports back to the Blu-ray player that, hey, I'm a 5-channel zone. This way the theater doesn't lose its surround sound audio, but while at the same time it will de-embed the audio format and then down mix that 5-channel, let's say, audio track to a proper 2-channel and display it in that bedroom properly in 2-channel audio. So that M2C is used extensively in these matrix environments to make sure the audio is done properly in each zone.
And what's the MSRP on that, on one of those M2Cs, Ken?
Those are $349. Those are $349 MSRP.
All right, perfect. That the question just came in typed a little bit incorrect, so you answered it.
Perfect.
And what about
Perfect.
what do you see on the horizon for 4K or 3D?
So if we're talking about 3D, right now all of the Atlona devices, matrix devices, HDBaseT devices are set to pass 3D with no issue. If we're talking about 4K, now with 4K we're upping the resolution a bit, which means we're upping the bandwidth. So when we go to 4K, all of the HDBaseT extenders that are out there will pass 4K. All of the HDMI to HDMI distribution amplifiers will pass 4K. And in our commercial, light commercial space, we have a product which I'll show you guys at the end here, which is a 4K scaler built into it. The rest of the products in the line are certified at 1920 by 1080 or 1920 by 1200. Not 4K just yet, but stay tuned. In 2015, you're going to see a significant upgrade to a number of our products, which will also make those 4K compatible as well. And when I say 4K compatible on those HDBaseT products right now, that means full 4K at 24 hertz and Ultra HD at 30 hertz.
That's perfect. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's wrap up the video solution with some upcoming features as we've talked about these 3 different scenarios from media spaces to whole home distribution. And let's talk about what the possible new features are.